Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today I thought I would spill the beans on some pros' favorite baits. Now these are baits that through the years I've had some pros basically give me some of their juice, some of the baits that they absolutely love. And because of that, I've gone out and bought a whole bunch of this stuff. Some of them I haven't actually even used yet. Other ones I use quite a bit to the point where I've implemented them into my tournament strategies. But I figured I would share some of these baits. Now, the anglers would kill me if I gave up this stuff. So I'm not going to give the angler by name. Now, I know a lot of you guys will be like, well, that doesn't justify it. But I assure you that some of these anglers would be extremely upset with me if I specifically gave their names up. And honestly, if you watch my channel on a regular basis, some of these baits, you'll know who that angler is because I have shared the information in a not so roundabout way in the past, a while ago. But yeah, I wanted to go ahead and walk through. So I've got a bunch of baits, and to make it fair, I do have one bait that I will give that is one of my secret juicy baits out there that I've never mentioned on the show before, and I'm still pretty hesitant to mention it now. The problem is you can't really find them anywhere, so it doesn't really do anyone any good. But let's get down to this. So these are baits that professional anglers, like it's a secret bait in their arsenal that they don't want to give up. I could actually do like 50 of these. So if you guys like this episode and you want me to do more like this, definitely let me know and I can do more of these because I do think it's pretty cool. And to satisfy all of those people out there that always think I'm just doing sponsor plugs, these are not really sponsor baits at all. I mean, there's a couple in here that I guess technically are sponsors of mine, but I've talked about them before as well. So let's get right down to it. So one of the ones that through the grapevine I've heard is a phenomenal jig, something that multiple pros rely on a daily basis, pretty much around the country. And this is one that I have not thrown. Now, if you were to go in the back wall over here, you'll probably find 10 of them because over the years, I've bought a bunch of these because I have had several professional level anglers tell me about this jig. And I still have yet to throw it. And that's just because I'm kind of stubborn when it comes to my jig fishing. But this one right here, this is the Denny Brower Baby Structure Jig. This bait, from what I've been told, pretty much can be used anywhere, comes through all different forms of cover, but it's that small profile that generates a lot of bites. And if you use this jig, you probably are familiar with the head style on it. It's got a different head style. It's almost kind of like a poison jig head, but it's a different, unique, like downturned hook eye. It's a pretty cool bait, and it is one that I plan to fish with this year just because I do have a bunch of them, and there's no reason not for me to do it, especially when I know who these individuals are that are using them and they have a ton of success on it. So this is one that I'm definitely going to work into my arsenal. Another one here that has become a favorite of mine is the Berkley Spin Rocket. Now, this bait is tough to find. Now, specifically this color, the MF Bluegill, is kind of like the juice in my opinion. I found out about this in a roundabout way. I had an angler contact me at looking for them at Lake Okeechobee. And at that point, based on who that angler was, I was like, I got to put this into my arsenal. And if you watched this season, I went down to Okeechobee and I think I had a 16th place finish. And a good portion of those fish were caught on this bait. So it is definitely one that is very much in my arsenal right now. And it's got a crazy history because I believe it's been discontinued 2 or 3 times. And because the pros keep requesting, they keep bringing it back. And they bring it back in like more limited colors. But right now, as far as I know, it is back in production. But I don't know if it's going to be made moving into the future. But I do know you can get these in a few random places. Tackle Warehouse, actually, for being sold out for like a year, has the MF Bluegill back in stock right now with a couple other colors. And don't worry, I stocked up on it. But so that is one that came from a top, I'll say a top 10 angler out there. Somebody who has definitely been crushing it for the last, I don't know, 10 years at this point, long time. So there's one for you. Here's one, and this is another sponsor plug, but the core tackle hover rig, the 1/8 ounce size, the 3/0 hook with this guy, well, not this color. This is the only color of caffeine shads that I own is the Siren color. Great one for smallmouth, but they're fishing it on shad colored patterns on the 1/8 ounce core tackle hover rig. And if I told you who this angler was, you guys would probably, you probably would not believe me. But there is a well-known power fisherman out there, like phenomenal fisherman, top of the level, that is pretty much going all in on finesse fishing because of the hover rig. And that's not the only pro. There are a bunch of other pros out there. If you watched closely, if you watched a lot of those smallmouth events closely at the end of last year, which is kind of when the hover rig started to blow up, there were a lot of people in the Elite Series that were catching them on the hover rig, but they never once mentioned it. But I can assure you, I shipped a ton of them out to my Elite Series buddies. I had a lot of requests from Elite Series guys, as well as other professional level guys. But it was a player in a lot of those smallmouth events. So it's kind of being kept on the down low from those specific professionals. But this one professional I'm talking about is catching them on this guy, the Caffeine Shad by Strike King. Another one. Why don't I give you one of mine? I'll give you one of mine to satisfy everyone out there. This is one that I've kept close to my heart. This is the Tiny Ika by Yamamoto. It was part of their crappie fishing baits. Now, they got rid of it. They have since come back out with a Tiny Ika, but the Tiny Ika has actually got a body that's much longer. This is a small, I believe it's a 2-inch bait. It's just a tiny little guy. It's an absolute killer. I have caught a lot of fish on it. I have won a lot of money on it. The problem is, at this point, it's been discontinued for a long time. Probably, I'm going to say 6-7 years. Very difficult to find. I consistently am scouring the internet for it and am pretty much very much unsuccessful on a regular basis. But there's one out of my playbook that I don't think I've ever really divulged on the channel before, but it is one. If you watch my videos, if you watch my tournament recap videos, you probably have seen me catch a bunch of fish on it. Some of you out there who I've talked about point it out every time I do it. But so there's one for you. So another pro who has been around for a real long time, somebody who I do have a ton of respect for, you know, kind of like one of the old granddads of the sport. One of their favorite baits is the Sexy Impact by Kitech. So this is a cool bait. This is, so the way they use it is on a shaky head. That's the way I've imparted it. I've had some really good tournaments on it. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, over the last couple of years, the shaky head has kind of worked its way out of my arsenal. It's not been nearly as big of a player. But this bait is really cool for a couple of reasons. One, so it's got that profile of kind of like your soft stick bait, but when you rotate it, you can see it tapers down, and this section is very thin. So you get a lot of tail movement here, and then you've got your little kind of tickler at the end of it. But you get really cool motion out of it, a little bit different than a lot of the other kind of soft stick baits or your traditional shaky head worms. But this is one that does have a pretty good hardcore following amongst a handful of pros. I'm going to say in the Ozark region. That's all I'm going to say. But this is somebody that I was very happy when they told me about it. I went out, bought a couple packs, ended up cashing a check on Beaver Lake that year. And since then, have definitely used it quite a bit and put it into some rotation. But I can assure you, they will not be happy if they hear me giving this out to you guys. The last bait in today's secret pro baits section is another really good bait. That's one that I definitely use. I kind of, the last couple of years, have kind of gone away from crankbaits a little bit, and that's not because I don't like crankbaits. It's because my schedule has kind of not been, I guess, crankbait ordeal. But the XB1 by Excite has a pretty good following amongst some hardcore anglers as well. This is one where there were some other, we'll just say upper Midwest anglers that kind of turned me onto this little guy. It is a Dynamite little square bill crankbait. This is the preferred color. This is a sexy blueback herring color. This is one of their favorites. There were 2 or 3 colors they told me about. I've since bought a bunch. This can be a difficult one to get to at times. It's not necessarily one that's carried in a ton of different places. But the cool thing with this is it's small, compact bait, casts extremely well. You can launch it, but it's a very heavy, compact little square bill, so you can really put it into those tight spots, work it around cover, and the fish really do like it. This is one that I've caught a lot of fish on over the years since I've been throwing it. I've been onto that one. I mean, my buddy who told me about it told me about a long time ago. So I've been throwing that one for a while, and I've caught a lot of tournament weigh-in fish on that. But these are some secret baits of some pros. And like I said, this is one of those things. It's interesting to me because almost every pro I talk to, there's always like a secret bait they've got, something that they're a little bit timid to talk about. And it always makes me wonder, is it truly the bait that is awesome? Is it just the fact that that pro is in tune with that bait, knows how to fish it, has the right rod and reel, everything works well? Or is it, like I said, they're simply like just top-notch baits, which in my experience, every time I've been recommended by a pro as to like check out one of these baits because they catch fish, generally they're pretty much spot on. So that's what I found. And hence, that's why I have a lot of this tackle is because of recommendations from other people that I admire and respect. Anyways, guys, they're going to not like me for this, but I figured I would share it because there's no secrets on the channel. And like I said, I gave out one of my top baits as well. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, new video coming out tomorrow.